Question: is there little mention of the natural sciences in the Qur'an? If so, how should this be explained? Answer: the Noble Qur'an has come from pre-eternity and will go on to eternity. Prophethood, which began with the descent of Adam to the world, developed gradually in the form of revealed books and reached its culmination with the Master of the universe. In him, the Qur'an was revealed as the summary, the essence, and the index of all previous books. The Noble Qur'an is not merely a book of the 20th century. If it were a book belonging exclusively to an age in which technology, technique, and science had passed through many stages, perhaps it would have spoken much more explicitly about science. Secondly, let me point out this: we speak of positive sciences. By positive science, we mean things that have so far been discovered and established through experimentation. For example, obtaining iron is now something positive. Iron is extracted from or found in the ground. Likewise, the processing of petroleum, which is a mineral found underground, is a positive science. Refining petroleum according to certain laws, extracting many substances from it, and producing various synthetic materials from it, using them in clothing, food, and fuel, are all matters of positive science. Perhaps in the future they will produce synthetic foods from petroleum and feed people with them. I do not know, perhaps they already are, and I am simply unaware of the world. If these are positive matters, then thousands of similar things have been accomplished so far. For example, cultivating crops properly and obtaining produce are matters that have come into existence through experimentation up to the present day. This too is a positive science. What I mean by this is that over these 14 centuries, humanity has advanced through so many stages in sciences whose results constitute today's body of knowledge. They number in the thousands. But because we have become accustomed to them and familiar with them, we see them as simple, like yesterday's trams or coal-powered trains. And because they seem outdated, we do not even pay attention to them. Whereas, if you were to go back 6 centuries, instead of today's rockets, Apollos, and similar things, other phenomena would have appeared as positive achievements, and the people of that time would have said, "Why does the Qur'an not speak about these matters?" Therefore, from the moment of its revelation, throughout what I might call its historical span of 14 centuries, the Noble Qur'an speaks of tens of thousands of events that have occurred. If the 50 events that occurred in the 20th century were to say, "Let the Qur'an speak only about us," this would be an infringement upon the rights of all the others. Moreover, the Qur'an is the book of the universe. If it had allocated very explicit chapters to things such as rockets, Apollo missions, electricity, or X-rays that emerged in this age, if, for example, there were chapters called Surat al-Electricity or Surat al-Apollo, then Allah's galaxies, suns, stars, and moons would say to these small, recent things, "Know your limits, ask for a place in the Qur'an according to your scale." The Qur'an mentions everything according to its proper measure. Thus, the Noble Qur'an is not a book of physics or chemistry, but it has said so much about the fundamental principles of knowledge and technology that its freshness will never fade in any age, provided that we look at it carefully. On the other hand, the Noble Qur'an, in a sense, speaks more about history, biography, and matters related to the lives of the prophets. This is especially because, at the time of its revelation, the circumstances to which our prophet was subjected were taken into consideration. For example, in one respect, our prophet was being denied. The Noble Qur'an says to him, "If they deny you, many prophets before you were also denied," and then it relates the events. It recounts the denial of Moses and the denial of Jesus. When the messenger of Allah was subjected to harm, he would say, "May Allah's abundant mercy be upon Moses." He was subjected to even more than this, and yet he endured. He found consolation in this, because he knew the events. In the Noble Qur'an, the lives of the prophets are sometimes presented in summary form and sometimes partially in detail. These accounts reveal the fundamental truths that guide human life. The entire life of humanity is contained within it. You will find everything that may happen to you there. A person who opens the Noble Qur'an and reads it attentively, paying attention to its meaning, finds his daily ups and downs, the paths he walks, all of them within the Qur'an. If he does not find it in one chapter, it is mentioned in another. Then that chapter captures the person with his own psychology and immediately takes him to the area where he will be treated. When all these events are considered together, it appears almost like a history book. Yet in reality it is not so. In fact, if we were to gather all the passages in the Qur'an concerning the lives of the prophets, it would amount to perhaps 60 pages. Nevertheless, if we were to gather what the Noble Qur'an expresses in the name of science, it would likely amount to even more. For in one place it speaks of the creation of the earth and the heavens, in another place it speaks of the creation of plants. There are chapters that begin by enumerating Allah's blessings and end by enumerating them. From all this it is understood that the Noble Qur'an has not neglected the sciences, nor has it given excessive place to the life stories and adventures of the prophets. Rather, it has given everything its due place according to need.